Hello, I'm Rachel Jones for the Finance News Network. Today I'm speaking with Managing Director of Mayur Resources, Paul Mulder. Paul, welcome back to FNN.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Mayur Resources has a number of projects in PNG spanning a wide range of commodities. How is progress there?
Look, we're really happy actually. 2019 we saw a lot of progress made. From a development point of view, we're seeing that the lime and cement project's reaching a final phase of investment where we're in an equity investment process that KPMG have been engaged in, and that will continue. We're in the final stages of also securing a mining lease, which will be the final statutory approval. We're expecting to see that granted in this quarter. What is that actually going to mean? It's going to mean that PNG for the first time will actually have its own cement and lime plant on a vertically integrated basis for its own nation building. The mineral sands, we've actually started camp construction, and that camp construction is to enable the pilot plant to be built. That pilot plant will be sufficient enough in size to actually do a commercial grade shipment to China. The coal project with the biomass for the energy and for power, the good news is that there has been some movement at the ministerial level where they're very keen to secure any source of energy.
And Paul, could you tell me more about the coal use in PNG?
Coal traditionally hasn't been used extensively in PNG. Electricity, 13% of the population has access to electricity. Half of that electricity to date has been supported by imported heavy fuel oil and diesel coming out of the likes of Singapore, which sees foreign currency come out of the country and a very high cost, high polluting energy form coming into the country. Coal is used by the fisheries. They import that from Indonesia and use it for their own captive needs because it's so much cheaper than using electricity off the grid, and they need that form of energy as well for steam, for cooking of the fish, for refrigerant, etc. So what we're proposing is that the coal that's actually in PNG is far better quality than what even Australia uses for its own energy needs. What we're proposing is that coal is used instead of Indonesian coal, firstly. Secondly, we're proposing that the energy mix that the country adopts is a responsible energy mix. If there's a disaster, natural disaster, if there's drought or earthquake, if one of those energy mixes goes down, you can't just be solely reliant on gas or solely reliant on hydro. Renewables is expanding, but the reality is they have to have coal for the next 20, 30 years in that mix. And to give you the idea of the quantum difference that we're talking about, the amount of coal that will be used will be 10,000 times less in 1 year than what China would use in 1 year. So we're talking an absolute tiny fraction, but that has such a huge benefit.
Thanks, Paul. And what's the status of the copper gold portfolio?
The copper gold portfolio, whilst very exciting with regard to prospectivity, doesn't really fit centrally with our industrial minerals and energy focus for nation building. There's a potential that that will end up in a separately listed vehicle. We see that as still a benefit for Mayur Resource shareholders because they'll be a shareholder in that separate entity. But when investors and shareholders look at our prime focus is industrial minerals and energy.
And now let's talk about your funding and approvals for your flagship cement and limestone project. How much equity finance are you seeking?
Based on gearing, and look, if you're looking at a traditional project finance range of anywhere between 60 and 70% debt, and the remainder of that being equity, the total project capital of around 330 million, we'll be looking for around 110, maybe 120 million in equity, around 220 million in debt, depending on the gearing range. What we're doing is we're running two parallel processes. One is in train with equity, so we're working with the various equity participants that have put forward bids, and KPMG continue to work on that. But in addition to that, we've also received expressions of interest or letters of intent or what have you in relation to the provision of debt also for that project. So, and that's across a range of institutional global financiers being banks.
Thanks, Paul. And just to the last question now, is there anything else you'd like to add?
So look, we're very confident in the robust financial nature of the project. The returns are extremely attractive. You can look at the bankable feasibility study and look at the IRRs and the NPVs of those projects. You know, you're talking very, very attractive IRRs. And that's just because of the nature of the project, being a first mover in PNG. We're 3 times closer to the Australian market than the rest of China and Japan that's importing into Australia. So I think from a value point of view, you just look at one of those projects, one of the 3 projects has more than the value of the entire market capitalisation of the entire company. When you look at, say, the cement and lime project, it's got a valuation of 600 million NPV. Acknowledging that we will raise equity at the project level for that. We're not expecting the Mayur Resources shareholders to have to fund that, but what we're expecting is at a project level we raise that money, but we still keep the lion's share, or if not, very close to a majority of the economics in that project.
Paul Mulder, thanks for the update.
Thank you very much.